Now, the education doesn't get much better than my next one. It's NCAAF. It's college football this weekend, and it is all up for grabs. Teddy Covers, good morning, sir.
Hey, how are you this morning, Flash? What's a good word?
Oh, listen, there's some unbelievable games this weekend, and I look and I think, are Utah going to backdoor this playoff picture?
What do you mean backdoor the playoff picture? I don't understand.
Well, I'm looking at Georgia ranked 4. I've got Utah at 5. Georgia drop out, Utah in?
Not necessarily. Look, there's a lot of games to be played this weekend. And when we're talking about scenarios for what's going to happen for the playoffs, look, Clemson still got to win. Okay? They don't win, they're not in. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. Ohio State still got to win. If a Wisconsin pulls the upset, guess what? Buckeyes, maybe yes, maybe no. Georgia beats LSU. Does the SEC get 2 teams in? We don't know. What happens if Oklahoma beats Baylor? And Baylor, of course, is ranked much higher than Oregon. How does the committee make the adjustments there? Would Oklahoma get the bid over Utah? So the only thing the Utes and the Ducks can do tonight is play a football game, and then we'll see what the committee decides thereafter, which is, what the college football championship picture has come down to. It's a committee making decisions. It's kind of like a bureaucracy. Good times.
So we look at Utah versus Oregon. Utah giving up 6.5, 7 in a place. What side do you fall, Teddy?
So if I was going to play the game, I'd be looking at the Ducks plus the points. And I stepped in front of Utah a couple times this season, and I got my teeth kicked in. So I'm not going to play the game. But I feel like Oregon can hang in this contest. Of course, tonight, the weather is absolutely going to be an issue in Santa Clara this evening. There is wind, and it's a crosswind that's expected, which is bad news for Oregon. Oregon wants to chuck the football around with Herbert. That not likely to be one of the easier ways to move the football in this ballgame because of the weather conditions. Now, we'll see how that plays out in the hour before kickoffs, but all the forecasts that I've been seeing are problematic in terms of being able to throw the football. But where's the pressure in this ballgame? All the pressure's on Utah. All right, there's no pressure on the Oregon Ducks. They get to play spoiler. Oregon with the team speed edge, legitimately, over Utah. The biggest question here in my mind, and one that I'm having difficulty answering, is the Ducks' defense as good as their numbers indicate? I know Utah's defense is that good. Utah can ground and pound. They'll dominate the line of scrimmage on both sides of the football. But if Oregon can hang with them on the defensive line and not allow Zach Moss to rip off 5-7, put them in second and short, third and short over and over again, the Ducks can absolutely hang in this game. And we've seen Oregon's defense at times this season play like an elite unit. Can certainly understand all the under money that's come in this ball game. If I had a free bet, I'd look at the Ducks side. But like I said, at less than a touchdown, given the weather conditions, I'm not getting to the window with this one. So good luck if you're going to bet it.
Without a shadow of a doubt, the biggest game this weekend is going to be the Bulldogs and the Tigers. Do you lean one way or the other, Teddy?
Now, of course I got leans everywhere. And yeah, I've got Georgia in my pocket. I put Georgia plus 7 in my pocket. That's not a lean, that's a bet. And it took me all week to get there. But the more I read, the more I thought, I had the opportunity to talk with a couple of bookmakers in town over the last 24 hours. And both of them were saying, we need Georgia in the worst way. It's nothing but LSU money. And in general, I want to be betting with the bookies, not against them. In general, there are lots of opportunities where you'll have to get involved in games where, hey, the books get smacked. But when it comes to these national TV marquee matchups, more often than not, I'd rather be on the book side than on the better side. And no question here that LSU is the side the bookmakers will be rooting against tomorrow. And it's your classic case. I mean, how many times have we seen this? The elite offense faces the elite defense. We see it all the time in sport after sport. Where's the edge in these matchups? And it really is cross-sport. It's a team that gets stops. So I don't trust Georgia to trade points with LSU.
No.
But I think Georgia's defense has a decent chance of shutting LSU down. So Georgia absolutely correlates with some under in that ballgame. If LSU gets into the 40s, Georgia's not covering this number. They're not winning the game. So to maximize your return on investment, maybe if you're looking at the Georgia side like I am, you may want to parlay that a little two-teamer, Georgia in the under, because like I said, they're not trading touchdowns with LSU. If the Bulldogs defense can't stop them, the bet's going to lose. So it's just a matter of, if you believe in that Georgia defense, there's two bets to be made, not just one.
Yeah, well, I've made mine and I've gone LSU all the way. I've looked at this Georgia defence. Yeah, I think they've obviously done really well and they are in the position they are because of the D. I think, how fit is DeAndre Swift? We've got no Lawrence Cager, so we're on Dominic Blaylock to share the load. And I don't trust Jake for him. And then we're talking about listen, I think the Heisman winner is minus 2,000. Joe Burrow breaking records every week. I'm not having this Georgia Bulldog side. It's LSU Tigers all the way for me, but I will agree that I think it will be the under. I'm happy to go 7. I think I went 7.5 as well. So for me, I think LSU. Do you think LSU are the real deal and will win outright?
I mean, LSU's a 7-point favorite, so I think Georgia's live to win the game. Absolutely. And if you're asking me, would I lay minus 250, minus 270? What are you looking at laying with LSU to win the game? No, I would not lay that with LSU. Again, LSU hasn't faced a defense as good as Georgia's all year. And I know Georgia hasn't faced an offense as good as LSU's, but in these matchups, historically, not this year, not the last 5 years, the last 30 years, you want the defense over the offense. Unless the offense is unless the defense is overrated or the offense is just, even the 99 Rams, where the Titans shut them down in the Super Bowl. When you get the elite defenses, there's something to be said for backing those teams catching points at this time of the year. So I can't wish you luck with LSU.
No, I wouldn't expect you to.
I'm not going to root for the push. I got Georgia plus. We'll be on opposite sides of this one.
No, I'm quite happy to be on the opposite side when I think that this outstanding offense, Joe Burrow doesn't come along every single year. And I'm just not having the Bulldogs. I'm just not having them. I think that, listen, I'm in total agreement with you that most times that I would want to be with a D. I mean, we go back to the Baltimore Ravens in the early 2000s and the Ds win championships. But there again, Joe Burrow, he looks like he is something special. And considered some of the NFL quarterbacks I've seen this year, I'd rather have him taking a snap and dropping back into the pocket.
Well, you say there's not a Joe Burrow every year. I couldn't disagree stronger. There is a Joe Burrow every year. There's 3 Joe Burrows every year. And some of them step up at the NFL level and some of them don't. And, we look at Georgia last year. They're facing Tua. You ask me, who am I going to take as the better NFL quarterback down the road? I'll take Tua over Burrow in a New York minute. And Georgia's defense was all right against them last year. They hung around against Alabama in they lost by 7. In the SEC title game. And again, a 7-point loss here would be a push. But Burrow's a good QB, okay? I'm not saying he's a bad QB, but I'm saying every year in college football, you find Joe Burrows. Some of them pan out at the next level. Some of them don't.
Yeah, but take away the figures, take away the records. Just judge it with your naked eye. He looks absolutely stone cold in that pocket. He breaks out. He has a turn of pace. He's a proper athlete. He has a brain. He sees pictures. And I'm looking at it from a professional sportsman's point of view. And I'm looking at him going, wow, you are proper. And I'd be more than happy to see him go to an NFL side and take them snaps. What else do you like, Teddy?
Well, so let's talk Big 12 championship game with Oklahoma and Baylor. And this is one that it's kind of taken me all week to put it together. But the more I've thought about this game, the more I've researched this game, the more I like the Oklahoma Sooners minus the points against Baylor. And we think about this first one. We all remember the first meeting. Baylor up 28-3. And then Oklahoma answers back in a big way in the second, with a really dominant second half on the road at Baylor. And everyone's like, oh, Baylor's fine. They just knocked off Texas and Kansas. Texas and Kansas aren't Oklahoma. And we talk about playing in these title games every year. I think that's a legit edge for Georgia in the game against LSU. They played in this title game each of the last 2 years. Oklahoma's played and won in this title game each of the last 2 years. I think that is a legitimate edge against Baylor. And what happened in the second half of that game, where a 28-3 deficit turned into a 31-28 victory, where it wasn't just one side of the ball. It was both sides of the football dominance for Oklahoma. All they've done is play better down the stretch, and yet here it is. I'm hearing people tell me, "Oh, well, the Baylor Bears have bounced back so nicely off of their loss." They played the two right teams at the right time. Oklahoma figured them out and dominated them, and I think we see more of the same. I do not expect this one to be close in the second half, and I give Baylor all the credit. They've had a great season. They're not as good as Oklahoma, and Sooners are about to show it. So that's my single strongest play for Saturday is Oklahoma minus the points against Baylor.
Yeah, you've got me worried now, Teddy, because I'm in total agreement with you. And you should be worried because I'm not that hot at the moment. I'm going 50-50 every week. So I get 3 or 4 right, I get 3 or 4 wrong. But, wow, yeah, I'm happy. Oklahoma, I think, are absolutely the real deal when it comes to just outside that top echelon. What about the Ohio State against Wisconsin?
The only way I could play it is Ohio State minus, all right? Again, this has been a series history here, and you don't want to go too far back. But over the last 15 years, okay, these two teams have played, I think it's 12 times. And Wisconsin's won once and covered twice. 11 times. Sorry, it was 10-1 straight up, 9-2 against the spread. Wisconsin has repeatedly been unable to hang with Ohio State. We saw them play earlier this year. What happened? Wisconsin, they hung around for a little while, They couldn't hang around for 60 minutes. And once the Badgers fell off, once they hung and tough and hung and tough and hung and tough, and then once they got punched in the mouth, there was nothing left. And it was boom, boom, boom. Ohio State ran them out of the gym. I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen here. I'm not betting in front. You talk about the best teams in college football, and I personally think that Ohio State and Clemson are the two teams in college football that are both better than LSU. So those are the two teams in my mind that I expect to play for the national title. They're the two teams that I will not be standing in front of. And, maybe the Badgers find a way defensively to hang around for a while in this one. I think Wisconsin definitely correlates with under in this matchup. If the Buckeyes get, 5 touchdowns, Wisconsin's going to have a long evening. So if you like the Wisconsin side, again, to maximize your return on investment, you may well want to look at the under in this one. But I could easily see Ohio State in under because I'm not sure how Wisconsin scores. Jonathan Taylor, again, the first meeting, 20 carries, 52 yards. And that's about what we can expect. There aren't many teams that have been able to run on Ohio State this year, namely none. And the teams that have moved the football against Ohio State have been chucking it downfield, like Shea Patterson did in the first half last week for the Wolverines. But Shea Patterson's better than Jack Cohn, okay? And Wisconsin's passing game can only be successful when they're running the football effectively. I don't think they can run the football effectively here, which means that I think at some point Ohio State's going to pull away. Buckeyes or pass for this better, and a definite lean towards the under. Although the problem with the under, and maybe Wisconsin team total under is a better bet. But the problem with the under is Ohio State's not going to stop scoring. And we've seen them approach or exceed the total all by themselves on more than one occasion this season. Lean under. Team total for Badgers under might be the better bet.
Teddy, I haven't had to be up all night every day of the week for these selections because the Ohio State, I've given up 15.5. I'm happy going with Oklahoma -9. LSU, I've gone with them -7, maybe 7.5 in a spot. And the big one for me is Clemson, giving up 27.5.
Well, so it sounds like you like a lot of chalk. You like all the favorites this weekend.
I do. I think the cream rises to the top this week, Teddy. I'm not getting in the way of any of these runaway trains.
Yeah, historically, and again, I'm not someone that spends all my time looking back, but historically, this is a weekend where we do see a fair few blowouts, but we also see a fair few shockers. Now, I don't think that Virginia is going to shock Clemson.
No.
Okay.
No, there's a gulf, Teddy. There's a gulf between these two outfits.
There's a huge gulf. However, Virginia's 2 toughest games this season, okay? I watched them both. I watched the game at Miami, where their offensive line got slapped around, but their defense played great. And I watched the game at Notre Dame, where they didn't cover, but it was a fraudulent non-cover. They were every bit as good as the Irish in those games. I'm not stepping in front of Clemson, but I wouldn't be shocked to see Virginia hang around in this game. I really wouldn't. They're a character team, okay? They've shown me they can take punches and punch back, and that's what I want at this time of year. A mobile quarterback, and Clemson's defense is ridiculous, okay? I'm not – it's a difficult defense to find any vulnerability with. But Virginia's found some ways this season. It's not a game I'm going to play. I wouldn't talk out of the Clemson side. But stranger things have happened than Virginia hanging around in that one. Hard game for me.
My son lives in Clemson, goes to the games, and said to me, before the line even comes up, they win by 30. He said to me, minimum 35-7. So when I looked at 27.5 and got under the 28, I was more than happy. The week before, he said to me, Dad, don't even think about it. Get on, Clemson. They win. And win big. So I'm going to keep the faith with him, keep the faith. But obviously, I'm going to go with the top 3 winning. And I'm going to go against Georgia. And I also like Utah. What else do you like, Teddy?
I took Central Michigan minus the points. That's the other favorite that I like for Saturday. Central against Miami, Ohio. And we talked about this one early in the week, but we can certainly talk about it again. When the Chippewas, there's one thing that Central Michigan had that nobody else in the MAC had this year. That was a defensive line, really a front seven. And their front seven was capable of blowing teams off the line of scrimmage. And if you look at their results down the stretch, that's what they were doing. You know, teams were unable to move the football against Central because they were the Chippewas defensive line was blowing up the line of scrimmage, and there's no room to run. There's no room to throw, and teams wore down, and Central put up points in bunches in the second half of these games. So what changes here? Nothing. Central's got the elite defensive line capable of dominating the line of scrimmage against Miami O. They have a quarterback who's making plays. They have a balanced offense at running the football. I think the Red Hawks, it's been a good run for Miami O, but Central's a class here. And again, a team that was 1-11 last year. Coaching change, JUCO talent infusion, it's made all the difference. Chips win the title tomorrow. I laid the 6.5 with Central Michigan.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say to you, Teddy. Open -3. It's now -6. Definitely moving towards the 7 with plenty 6.5s on there. So if you didn't get the -3, you're still happy to go -6.5.
Where did you see a -3? I never saw a -3.
Yeah, that's what it opened. It opened at Pinnacle -3, Bookmaker -3, but now they're going -6.5, near enough, right across the board, edging towards a touchdown, Teddy.
No, I my opener at Pinnacle shows 6.5.
No, I've got opener.
I'm pretty sure that's right. There were no 3. There might have been a rogue 3 for a minute, but this line's been sitting 6.5 since Sunday night.
Early bird catches a worm.
Hasn't gone to 7. Hasn't gone down to 6. I mean, literally, I'm across the board, 6.5, 6.5, 6.5, 6.5. There's a couple of 6s out there. I laid the 6.5 on Sunday night thinking it was going to go to 7, and it hasn't done that all week. But 6.5 is the only way I could look at it. There may have been a rogue 3 out there for a minute, but at no point was that the consensus number. If you got a 3, more power to you. That's a great line. If you got a 4 or a 5, that's a great line.
Well, obviously, because you're happy with 6.5, Teddy. I'm liking that.
Anything less than a touchdown.
I like the fact that Teddy's not picking up the rogues.
Well, I mean, again, it's one thing when we're betting, okay? Anytime, if I'm seeing a rogue number, you better believe I'm going to gobble up. That's my job. But when we're talking about lines and games for people to actually bet themselves, we have to be realistic with the numbers. And the number here was 6.5 Sunday night. I can't say that the number was 3. No. I'm with you. I don't think it's a typo. I think it was just probably a rogue. They tested the water. They got steamed over in the first 20 or 30 seconds. You mentioned shockers, Teddy. Where do you think the shock comes from? I think the shock comes from Georgia. I think Georgia's live to beat LSU. Absolutely.
Okay, well, I don't like that. I might raise that from the video, in fact, Teddy. I don't like you coming back at me with the Bulldogs over the Tigers. Anything else you like, Teddy?
That's all I played in college football. I have 3 bets in college football. I played Central Michigan minus the points, Oklahoma minus the points, Georgia plus the points. Those are my 3 wagers for the weekend.
And what about the NFL? What about the NFL? There's some unbelievable matchups. We can't let you go without obviously talking about the 49ers at the Saints and the 49ers getting points.
Sure, it really is an interesting game. San Fran stayed back east. This week was a positive thing. They did this 2-game East Coast swing early in the season, won them both. Won at Tampa week 1 and then Cincinnati week 2. This time, obviously, a little bit tougher competition with Baltimore and New Orleans.
And then
Drew Brees isn't right.
No,
he's just
thumb.
It's not the thumb; it's his age. And we're seeing the older Q. It's going on around the league. Phillip Rivers hasn't been right. Tom Brady hasn't been right. Drew Brees hasn't been right. And when you reach that stage of your career, we saw the ghost of Peyton Manning win a Super Bowl. But when you get to that point where it's just not right anymore,
I know.
I worry about it.
Yeah,
New Orleans has cluster injuries on the offensive line. They're missing a pair of starters on the OL, both on the left side of the line. They have cluster injuries at linebackers. They were signing linebackers off the street this week. And yet, even with all of that, I have a lot of hesitation betting against New Orleans in this spot. I really do. I don't trust Breeze. I don't trust the offensive line. I worry about the defense. And yet all the Saints have done all year is not just they've won literally every single close game. It's hard to step in front of that in December when a team has found a way to go, what are they, 8-0 in games decided by a touchdown or less? It feels infinite by a single score. And that's hard for me to step in front of. So it's not a game I'm going to bet. What about you?
I think it's basically an in-play bet for me because I'm really impressed with the 49ers, but I don't know how much has been taken out of them. Had that great game against the Ravens last week where the 49ers actually lost, but they actually gained a little bit more respect from me. I thought that it was a game that could have gone either way. I was actually on the money line mid-game with the 49ers because I felt that they were getting stronger, but I need to see how they've recovered and whether they're going to be carrying a little bit and they've got bigger fish to fry. But I think it's going to be a cracking game. The big one for me is in the AFC. And I look at the Ravens, a -6, at the Bills. Bills defense, 9-3, sleeping in the AFC. But do you think the Ravens get it done and can give up 6, Teddy?
I can't lay 6 with Baltimore. It's a Buffalo or pass deal for me in this game. And it really is. And the Bills, again, we saw them dominate Dallas last week, and now it's like, oh, well, that's devalued because Dallas lost last night. And nothing that Buffalo does seems to do anything to affect the broader markets for the Bills, where the Bills, everyone's like, Buffalo, they're okay. They've just beaten up patsies, and they can't beat any good teams. And Baltimore's a good team.
Without doubt.
Don't love this spot here for the Ravens. And it's a Bills team that matches up fairly well against Baltimore. When we think about Baltimore's defensive weakness, they can't stop the run. And we saw San Fran do it last week. And it's really hard to stop Lamar Jackson and company. That was a game where they had like 7 drives each. It was from a really short game. The second half, each team had 3 drives apiece, and that was the entire second half. The game moved very quickly.
Teddy, we got in the chat, we got non-applicable saying the Bills ain't no Ravens, but the Bills are at home. The Ravens have obviously come off that tough game against the 49ers, so we don't know what that's taken out of them as well. And when we're talking about giving up 6 points against this Bills D, I think the safest play is probably the over 43.5.
I'd be reluctant to play the over here because of exactly what we saw from Baltimore last week. All the Ravens want to do is shorten the game. They want, like the Cowboys opening drive last night, the 17-play, 9-minute drives. That's what Baltimore's whole MO is. So it's hard for me to get to the window playing overs in Ravens games because I know all they want to do is play a game where, both teams have 8 drives, and that's not conducive to overs.
Okay, last one, Teddy. Last one. The Chiefs getting 3 points at Foxborough with the Patriots. And this is a strong play for me, the under 49.
Kansas City's offense has been literally the only offense in the NFL that's been able to move the football against New England. And I mean in a real way. They played the last 2 years. The rest of the NFL has scored in less than 20% of their drives against the Patriots. And the last 2 years, the Chiefs have scored on more than 45% of their drives. So they've been able to move the football. They've solved this defense. I continue not to be excited about laying a price with Tom Brady or Phillip Rivers or Drew Brees or the aging QBs in December. But when you talk about a track record, and this you have to talk history. You cannot look at a Patriots game and not recognize what's happened over the course of the last 2 decades. New England wins these games. They cover these games over and over and over. Patriots off a loss, better than 67% long-term sample size. Patriots is home chalk in December of less than a touchdown, better than 70% significant sample size. So I'm going to lean towards Kansas City. I think they can move the football against New England. I think they can pressure Tom Brady. Again, the whole Chiefs defense is predicated on a pass rush. That's Brady's weakness. And Patriots offensive line has not been elite of late. So I do think Kansas City's live to win this game. But I've lost enough money betting against New England and Foxborough in December that I'm not looking to do it again. Lean, KC. That's as far as it goes. I wish you luck on your underplay.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to need any luck at 49 because I think both these teams, it's all about the W. There's going to be no expansive plays. You know the Patriots are not going to go deep, Teddy. They've got no pace. And there is question marks about Tom Brady's arm over even the 15-yard slants. So for me, I'm thinking, listen, under 49 is a knock, and I'm not going to go anywhere near laying Patriots at -3, but I wouldn't want to be going against them neither. So we're going to wrap it up, Teddy. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with the legend. I've got to hex you. I've got to get me Teddy Voodoo doll out with the Georgia Bulldogs and put loads of pins in.
I was wondering why my gut's hurting right now. You got one back there? Something's going on. I'm getting stuck in my intestines as we speak. So you put it together pretty quick. Cheers. Okay.
Well, I'll make sure that Jimmy gives you plenty of hammer, or I will not be seen if the Tigers don't get it done against the Bulldogs. Teddy, you have a great weekend apart from the obvious game, and we'll speak to you again soon.
I look forward to it. Good luck this weekend, low baggers. Thanks for watching. We'll talk on Monday.